1 second, I made a little jiggle here. Okay.
The language plan is a good way to respond to, in a systematic way, to the language and cultural backgrounds of all the children and families in your program. A language plan includes the objectives that you have for language proficiency in English and in a second language, possibly even a third language. The language plan lets you know how you'll organize language usage in the day and in the week. Some classrooms will use a teacher-based model, where they'll have one teacher designated in Cantonese, one teacher designated in English, and they'll stay in those languages. And other classrooms might use a time-based model, where Mondays and Wednesdays they'll use Spanish, and Tuesdays and Thursdays they'll use English. There are even variations between those two. The important thing is to have a plan and to know when you're going to use which language and which teacher will be doing that. Small group time as well has to be planned, and the story time. How will you work on supporting literacy in the first and in the second language? Now, if there are 5 or 6 or 7 languages in the program, we still want to respond to all of the languages and cultures that are present. Even in a dual language classroom, let's say you're established Spanish-English dual language classroom, if you have a child who comes in speaking Tagalog, you still need to respond and support and validate this third language. So you develop in your language plan your strategies. You'll be sure that you have books in the classroom that represent all of the language groups. You'll be sure that you have songs on tape or that you learn as teachers and share with the children from the languages that are present in the classroom. Labeling, you may have 2 languages that label most of the classroom, or maybe 3. But each language should be represented in the print of that language somewhere in the physical walls and spaces of the classroom. You have to also figure out how you're going to work with small group time. Children should have a small group time in their first language and in their second language each day, or at least each every other day. And you have to figure out how you organize that. Same with story time. We want stories in the children's home language, where we're asking rich, open-ended questions. And we also want stories in the second language, which use TPR, or total physical response, where we don't need to translate. The main point here is that you don't need to translate, especially with our preschoolers. They're able to learn the language through your emotions, your gestures, your props, your items, your movements, your demonstrations, and your use of TPR, where you show the movement and you say the word at the same time. This all develops into your language plan. In that also is the culture. So language and culture go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So as you're developing the children's language background, they're also developing a certain kind of literacy with the culture itself, in their own culture and in the new culture that they're learning, and in all of the cultures of the classroom. So you sort all of this out in your language plan.
Wonderful.